Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most. All right, Kev, was with a group recently with work, and one of the things that they'd asked me to kind of just share some thoughts on how do you remain relevant, right, as a partner.
Which, by the way, I mean, you're the right person to ask. Look at these trendy glasses you got on. I mean, you scream relevant.
I'm super relevant.
Are these real? Like, do you need them, or are they for
No, I just, I wear just regular glasses. Yes, they are prescription glasses. Because you've never seen them before and they're cool.
You are relevant.
Thank you.
So you give speeches on relevance.
I don't give speeches. It was asked to lead a conversation, and given the world we live in today,
we're here to encourage dads. So that's what I'm trying to do.
You're encouraging me very much. This is very nice of you. But there's a ton of change in the world. But my perspective is there's a lot that isn't changing, and that's not going to change, right? And I think one of the things is, you've got to add value, like whatever that looks like, whatever field of business you're in, whatever employment field, whether you're a teacher, you drive a bus, you work in healthcare, it does not matter. You as an individual, if you are adding value, if you're a value creator, you're going to rise above, and you're going to be vital to that business or that employment, right? So anyway, I
want to punctuate that backdrop because I want to hear some of these principles. I struggle on this change side because you remember there's a quote, there's an Army general, I'm going to butcher his name, but he used to say, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less.
Yeah. In
the world you and I live in, everything, like every business conference is about change. Right now it's all about AI. But like change. But I'll never forget, I was at a conference hearing about change, and one of the guys who was a mentor in my life was Vince Dooley. He was a coach for University of Georgia, and he used to say this, in changing times, hold to unchanging principles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for dads, we've got to figure out what are things that aren't changing. So I'm curious to hear the business strategies and how they apply. But I think the dad's got to see from the beginning, the world is changing.
Yep.
Certain things shouldn't change.
I totally agree. I love that quote. Another quote that I love is, marry the mission, date the methods, right? Because same kind of thing. I think what we have to do is going back to like value creator. I as I was having this conversation and then preparing for our chat right now, I was like, there's a ton. Oh yeah. From driving to my house to where we are, I thought a ton about this for 16 minutes. But there's actually a lot of commonalities on this, from what I was talking about. Like, how do you ensure that you're adding value against especially the things that aren't going to change and people that, that people are going to want, no matter whether it's 2020, 2030, doesn't matter. And there were really 5 principles around how you show up matters, and how you show up is going to, if you can do this, consistently, like these 5 things, I think, if you can do it, are going to help you deliver in the long run, right? And I'm going to hit all 5. What I want to do with you is let's talk about each 5 of them, but like from the lens of being a dad. So the 5 things, how we show up matters: care, delivering positive moments, urgency, innovate, and consistency. So let's go care first. So one of the quote I love, Andrew Cathy, who's the current CEO of Chick-fil-A, he was given a talk recently. I heard him say, cared for people, care for people.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes sense coming from him. You think about Chick-fil-A, like Chick-fil-A's vision at their support center on what they want guests to feel when they go through a drive-through at Chick-fil-A or go inside at Chick-fil-A. They want their guests to feel cared for, right? They want their guests to feel like, wow, I'm getting great food, but man, that experience I had, there was something special there. But here's the deal. Those 4,000 people at the support center at headquarters have zero ability to deliver that to the billion plus people that go through the 3,000 Chick-fil-A's. The restaurants have to deliver the vision of what they are setting at headquarters. So that notion of care for people, they have to care about the restaurants and the operators so much and set a clear vision so that they go out and execute against it. So as a dad, I think it's the same thing. I want my kids to be known as lights. When they walk into a room, there's something different about them, that they treat people the right way. But I can't just, hey, kids, go do that. I have to care for them in a way that allows them to go do that and carry that. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, but I think it's key to define what real care is. And this goes back to a business principle, but there was the book, The Human Brand, that basically created this axis of defining care as the intersection of warmth and competency. And I think it so applies to being a dad, because they would say warmth is like just being nice. And just being honest with you, when you say care, my immediate thing is like, oh, you got to just be nice. You got to be. But in that book, it says that if you're high on warmth, like you're very warm, you're kind, you're friendly, but you're not actually competent, you're not good at your job, that people feel pity for you. And I think that's true for dads. Like the TV depiction of a lot of dads is like this bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
That's just, but then on the other end, and we talked about this a little bit with like dads from a couple generations ago, if you're just competent, you're good at what you do, but you're not warm or kind, it creates suspicion. And it's really only at the intersection of warmth, so being kind to somebody and being good at what you do, is when somebody feels cared for. And I think the challenge is being a dad is being both.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be encouraging to you, but I'm also going to tell you, like, hey, I may not think I have all my crap together, but I've been there, I've done it, and I know what's best for you, and that's what I'm telling you to do. So I love that. Care is key, and I think care for people. And if we want our kids to be people that care, I think the way they experience from their dads has a disproportionate impact on how they show up to their friends and in the environments they're in.
I totally agree.
I like that one.
Yeah, so I think we hit that one. And just to put a yes and to what you said, care is not only, like you said, kind, nice, warm. A huge element of care is to be able to have a coaching conversation and a tough conversation.
Yeah.
If you're kind, warm, fuzzy, all those things, but then when it's time to correct or to have a tough conversation with your kids, and you're like, you temper and you're acting like a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
That's not, you can't be both of those things. So it's on both ends of the spectrum. So, all right. So care. The next thing, deliver positive moments. In the state of business, like I always say, your brand is the experience that someone has with your brand. It's not a logo. It's not an image. Like got it. That's a brand. But like if someone is to say, let's just use Disney World, which I love Disney World, I will talk about that brand very differently than I would talk about, something like a product that I buy or even another place that I go to visit, because the experience, the feeling that I have about it, right? So they've delivered positive moments. We've covered this in another episode. So if you've heard it, sorry. If not, this might be the first time. But that whole power of moments, the peak end rule. I think it's a rule. I always said the peak end theory, but I think they call it the peak end rule from that was outlined in that book the Heath brothers wrote, The Power of Moments, and they used Disney as that example. They used Disney as, hey, listen, if Kevin, Laura, and I think George and Amelia, right? You guys just got back from Disney a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't tell them, my kids don't tell them, but we're going to surprise them in a couple weeks. I can't wait. We're going down.
That's awesome. You're taking all of them? Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be good. But yeah, if someone was following you and Laura around with a clipboard and said, hey man, our bell happened. Like, how you doing? Give me a 1 to 10. How you feeling? You're 3, 4, 5s.
How about a 1? How about the taking George and waiting in line at Space Mountain and us getting to the front and him deciding he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then all that time, energy, money, effort, ask George, favorite ride at Disney World. You ready for this? Favorite ride at Disney World. The freaking People Mover. The People Mover. That's embarrassing. It's 3 miles an hour. I'm like, we should have just gone and ridden the train at the Atlanta airport and saved all this money. But you're right. In those moments, I'm like, this is crazy. This is stupid. I mean, we should just do Disney as adults, not even bring our kids. But we go back now and they're still talking about it. There's those moments. I think something when you say delivering positive moments, there's the peak end rule. I didn't know it's a rule, but I like that. But they're also understanding what's positive to them. Sometimes I want the positive moment to be what I wanted it to be.
Yep. But that's the thing. So you just said it. If you were every hour on the hour, you'd say, oh, this is a bad vacation. But you're looking back and you're like, it was a great vacation, because whether you like it or not, the People Mover is a core memory for him that he loves. And at some point in a couple of years, he'll go back and be like, why did I like this so much? This sucks. But in his mind, I got to ride the People Mover with my mom and dad and my sister, and we had this thing, and Mickey Mouse was there. So there's moments define the experience. But to your point, you don't always get to tell your kids the moments that define their experience.
Yeah. And
so you've got to be super thoughtful about how you show up when you're with them, because you don't know when that moment is going to be the defining moment for them. We talked about that story where this dad was so shocked to hear that his daughter in her mid-20s, when she was sharing her favorite moments growing up, was in middle school when her dad would take her to volleyball.
Yeah.
That season, for whatever reason, he was on duty to drive, and it was just her and him. He doesn't remember one car ride, but she did.
Yeah. I think that's a good encouragement reminder to dads, too, because we're talking about Disney World, and I know what that cost for us to go there, and it was a lot. But sometimes those moments, I remember you talking about I think you took the kids to New York. Like the boys, and their favorite part was the hotel room. Yeah.
Could have went to the Hampton Inn. No disrespect to Hampton Inn in Kennesaw, but that would have been a nice 15-minute ride. They had an indoor pool. Yeah, no.
Okay, so care, delivering positive moments.
Yeah, the next one's urgency. And I think, again, urgency can feel like stress. But that's not what, it's just, urgency is also just the being present, right? Being present and aware that, look, I have this window and I just need to make sure I'm showing up. And the example I used, I love the Ritz-Carlton, not the staying there, but the story behind it. You know, Horst Schultz founded the Ritz. He is hospitality through and through, grew up in Europe. And I think as a little boy was working in hotels. It was his dream. And one of the stories he tells about his principles, he had this CARE policy. CARE as an acronym for clean and replace everything. Traditionally, in the hotel world, based on how he tells the story, the way they upgrade and modernize hotels is on an 8 to 12 year cycle. Typically, it's a capital cycle. They'll close one half of the hotel, or they'll close a floor every 8 to 12 years, and they'll just dump a bunch of money in it and they'll upgrade it. His policy was, listen, we're not doing that. Yeah, we'll upgrade when we need to upgrade. He had full-time people in the hotels. Their job every single day was to clean and replace everything. If there was a little stain on the carpet, they'd pull it up as soon as the guest left and fixed it. If there was something in the room that needed to be fixed, it would not be waiting on an 8 to 12 year cycle, because that's what the finances told them to do, or the capital budget said to do. It was we're going to spend the money, and everyone thought he was crazy. It's you're having this full-time people here, you're wasting all this money. But he's like, no, that every person that walks into a room, no matter when it is going to have this experience. And again, tying that to a dad, you got to have urgency. You cannot wait to correct things. You cannot wait to tell your kid how proud of them you are.
Yeah. This is a tension for me, because one of the things I know we've tried to not do on this, in our podcast, the community, is great dad guilt. We're not trying to shame dads into this, but I saw this the other day, and it says, again, this is not to create guilt. 75% of the time we spend with our kids in our lifetime will be spent by age 12.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reminder is not to be like, oh, you're wasting, it's going to be over. But the urgency is like, if you're going to be intentional, do it now. Like, don't say, I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to put in all this right now. And when my kids are in high school, then I'll have that time. Or, down the road, the same approach Horst had with the hotels we've got to have with our kids. If there is a problem, if there's an issue, if we're going to do it right, let's do it now.
Yeah, I'll give you a real-time example. And like I said, to your point, I love what you said. This is not about it. Do it now. Whether your kid's 17, 27, 7, you're here, you have time to continue to try to do the right thing. If you feel condemned, it's the wrong C. You should feel convicted. Condemnation, it is coming from the wrong spot. It's the wrong voice speaking into you. You just flip that condemnation and you should feel convicted if any of this is resonating with you. This morning, I had a couple minutes I take when I'm not traveling, that's my thing. I get the boys up and we go to the bus stop together. And Benny got really good Iowa testing, came back, and he crushed it in science. Like this morning as we were going to the bus stop was not like the most optimal time to tell him how proud I was about his Iowa testing. But it just I was like, buddy, we were going to wait and maybe take him to some ice cream. But I was like, but the moment, it was the time, the urgency was right there. And he's like, I did, and we had this awesome conversation that, in my mind, I would have scripted it differently. It would have been this big moment. But it's you've got to have if you're proud of your kids, tell them you're proud of them. You don't have to wait. So
that's good. So care, delivering positive moments, urgency.
Yep. Next one, innovate. So this feels like a business thing, but I think we got to innovate the way we do things as dads. Every kid is going to be different. It's like a great coach is not, okay, this is how I operate. You got to kind of mold to me. If you're a great coach, you've got to be able to, you've got some things that are consistent, certainly. But you got to innovate and be different based on what you want to get out of your kids. Alvin Toffler has this amazing quote. He's a business philosopher. He said, the illiterate of the future won't be those who can't read or write, but it will be those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think as dads, we've got to be okay with unlearning some things. Perhaps we picked up some things from our parents that weren't great, or perhaps, hey, the first 5 years of their lives, this has worked perfectly, and now they're 6, and it's what? No, you got to, this is different now. What's going on? You better unlearn and relearn how to connect with them and make an impact. And so, while innovating doesn't necessarily feel like a parenting thing, I really think there's a lot of commonality and a lot of connection to being an innovative parent.
That's good. I think that's true. And we started off by talking about what principles we hold on to. You said marry the mission, date the methods. Being consistent for the long term doesn't mean doing the same things. It means being consistent in our intentionality, not in the way we execute it. And
that's the last one. You jumped there. I love it. It's consistency, right? That's the other one. And, that we're very familiar with the beauty of compounded growth when we think about finances. I need to be faithful, even though it doesn't feel good to throw this whatever amount of money every month into this account. I know that if I'm faithful, there's this beautiful thing called compounded interest. But why do we not think about that as parents? Because it's the same thing. Yes, it doesn't feel good, or yes, it might. Yeah, I'm tired. But man, if I can do this consistently, right? I mean, it's the same thing.
I think about that with it's a reminder because you don't see it all the time. I mean, there's years your 401k grows a lot, and there's years where it goes the wrong way. And it's easy at those points to feel like you're not making progress. I feel like the up and down cycles are even more with kids.
Yeah.
I got a 4-year-old right now. There's days where it feels like it's chaos, but I think the consistency pays long term.
It does. I think, and sometimes, so you mentioned the 401k, it's a great example. What you need to do is not every day, but maybe it's once a year to take a look. If you look at it every day, you might go crazy, right? But if you zoom out occasionally, and how do you tie that to a parent? Zooming out might be a parent-teacher conference, right? Where all of a sudden, the teacher says, hey, things are good. And you're like, wow, okay, we're doing all right. Zooming out might be taking the time to have a conversation with your kid. Like, hey, how am I doing as a dad?
Let me give you a point on this consistency piece. And I'm always hesitant to do this, to share something that Laura is going to listen to and then hold me accountable to on the podcast, because I'm guilty of this. But when it comes to consistency, you can't compensate for lack of consistency with bursts of intensity.
I love
that.
And
I try to do that as a dad. Like, oh, I didn't do this, but I'm going to just come into this moment. And I use this example in a work context this week. Like, if I didn't brush my teeth for 6 months and I brushed my teeth for 6 hours a day, the 5 days before I go to the dentist, how well is that going to work out? No, it's not going to work. Like, I haven't gone to the gym in a year, but I'm going to work out 10 hours a day the next week.
I hate to interrupt because I don't lose this, but I do typically floss 2 weeks for the dentist, but go ahead.
What they say when the dentist is flossing, and they're like, when's the last time you flossed? And I'm like, come to think of it, I think you did that.
Yeah.
Okay. But we can't compensate for not being consistent with those moments. And I think as a dad, there's a tendency at times to just think about the big moments.
Yeah.
But each of these, I think about care, delivering positive moments, urgency, innovation. They all happen most effectively through consistency.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, land the plane for us.
No, listen, the landing of the plane here is, first of all, for me, it's always interesting. Like, there's so much correlation to my day job when I think about being a dad. Like, it was just funny. I was thinking, doing this talk, I'm like, man, this is so similar, right? The principles of it. But I think you just nailed it, Kevin. I think that the reality is you have got to figure out a way to make this a consistent whatever the things are. You don't have to, what we just talked about might not be your thing, but figure out what your thing is as a dad, and you have to be consistent. Good. That's the thing. Consistency, so you get that compounded growth over time based on the consistent way you show up. And so that's would be the encouragement we leave for dads today is have some thoughts about what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be famous for as a dad with your family, and do that every day.
That's good. I hope we go do it.
All right.
There we go.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.